everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. Today I'm going to be diving into a project that I have had on my to-do list for a very long time, and it's one that I've been putting off and putting off and putting off and making do with what I have, which is my Franken Crinolette. But you know what? It's finally time. We are going to get rid of the Franken Crinolette. Okay, not quite yet. We will after we make this crinolette, and make an actual crinolette. One that is the correct shape and is not a weird bustle cobbled together with a store-bought hoop skirt, none of which fits me right. So this is going to be a challenge, I'm sure, because the last time that I made a hoop skirt, it was a challenge. Anytime you're working with hoops and steels and stuff, it can be a big challenge. And I'm going to be using a pattern diagram in Isabella, as in Prior Tire's book, to make this crinolette right here. Now, the only caveat to that is that I need to make it so that it fits the same dimensions as my Franken Crinolette, because I already have, what, 3 dresses that go over the Franken Crinolette, and I don't want to have to rehem them, reshape them, etc. So they need to be able to go over this actual crinolette just as well as they went over the Franken Crinolette, especially because I'm planning to wear 2 of those dresses to costume college. So this crinolette has to be made before costume college because I don't want to have to bring the Franken Crinolette again, basically. So she does have a pretty good diagram in here. I mean, all of her stuff is kind of like, you know, roughly to scale, as in like these are the patterns right here. So you can see, you know, it's not exact lines of anything, but I think that it will work. Obviously, I have to adjust this to my size instead of her size. She is at least a few inches shorter than me, I think, and significantly smaller around than I am. And again, I also need to adjust it to the size of my crinolette. So there's going to be a lot of math involved in this, and there's also going to be having to purchase new materials because I thought that I had enough hoop steel for this, and I just measured it, and I have 7 yards, and her pattern calls for 8 to 10 meters. Meters are longer than yards, and I already have less, and I need to make it bigger. So I'm gonna go order some more hoop steel from corsetmakingsupplies.com. Hopefully that will get here really quickly. I think I'm actually going to order enough that I can have a good amount in my stash for a future project as well. Honestly, I thought that hoop steel wasn't being made anymore, so I was really excited to see it on their website at all. And I do have 7 yards of hoop steel from I don't even know how long ago. Honestly, I think it might be left over from my elliptical crinoline that I made in 2012. So yeah, this stuff has been sitting around a long time. If you are not familiar with hoop steel, this is what it looks like. So it's actually 2 metal like wires almost that are run through these channels, and I think nowadays they're only doing the plastic coating. Once upon a time you used to actually be able to get this coated in fabric as well, which is really cool because that is a lot easier to sew through. This not so much, but luckily for the crinolette everything should be going into channels as opposed to my elliptical cage crinoline, which that you actually had to like sew all these intersections, and that was just a nightmare. So this hopefully won't be too bad. I think the hard part is really going to be sizing up the pattern correctly and then just hoping that it works, because I don't know how you mock something like this up. Like, it's gonna take the same amount of fabric no matter what, right? A mock-up versus a regular, and then you just have to hope that the hoop steels are the right size. I mean, that is just a lot of measuring. So I guess I should go ahead and dive into it. Now, fabric-wise, I honestly had kind of wanted to use like Kona quilting cotton, that heavyweight quilting cotton, but the only quilting cotton that I have in my stash that has enough yardage is hot pink. And while I love the idea of having a hot pink crinolette, because as you can see from these pictures right here, really brightly colored crinolettes actually were a thing, I also know that the next dress that I'm planning to make to go over a crinolette is going to be a white, fluffy, airy, basically sheer summer dress. And I would have to have a lot of layers of petticoats, like more than 1 or 2 layers of petticoats for a brightly colored crinolette to not show underneath such a white, fluffy, ruffly dress. So unfortunately, that means mine is going to be boring white. So I have white cotton twill, and that's what I'm going to be making it out of. It also requires a lot of cotton tape to like make sure everything's at the right layers and stuff. So those are the supplies. I think that's basically it, is cotton twill, cotton tapes, and the hoop steel. Okay, I am going to go place that order, and then we'll get started on, I guess not mocking it up, we'll get started on mathing this up. All right, let's talk about math. So this is the pattern here. These are the boning lengths that she has in here. And then these notes here, these are actually my hoop lengths. So I didn't measure all of them, and I actually have 3 here and 4 here. She has 4 here and 3 here, but these are what I have. So you can see there is quite a difference between hers and mine other than that bottommost hoop. And then there's a huge difference in the bustle area. And again, I do want to keep towards my measurements. The other weird thing here is that like her hoops are 30 through 33 for the bustle, but this is actually only 28 inches across. This is the bustle section. So that doesn't make sense to me because it has to be at least more than the hoops. So I'm just gonna go with 42 plus like seam allowance and cut that as the square. I'm not sure yet how tall this section needs to be. I think I may actually make up these first and then figure that out. But I have cut these out already, and these are the changes that I've made here. I hope you can see the pencil. But basically hers was 30 inches long, and I want mine to be 38 inches long, including seam allowance. And then this is the same measurement, this one here. So again, that's gonna be 38. This one over here, she had 32, so I've just added that 8 again to make it into 40. And then as far as the widths, I've added 3 inches to this piece, both top and bottom, and 4 inches to this piece, top and bottom. Now, of course, this all meant that it doesn't fit on my quilting cotton because I did decide, actually, we're going with hot pink. So I just have a lot of this, and all of the accents seem to be such fun colors that I decided to go with this hot pink Kona quilting cotton. It's nice and sturdy, and I will probably have to make another extra petticoat to go over this, but so be it. So anyway, again, I've cut these out. I had to cut them out like flipping them so that there would be one here and then one, you know, here, the opposite shape, and same with on this one over here. Actually, I flipped these two to be opposite because otherwise it's still, these two wouldn't have fit even flipped on the fabric. So I've cut all of those out, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and sew these together, maybe even start the boning channels before I do these. The boning channels, she has them as twill tape. I'm using bias tape. I find that that works a lot better with boning because twill tape, like boning can get stuck in it or pull it or whatever, and I've never had that problem with bias tape. So that's what I'm doing for this. So let's go ahead and start the assembly. So a little bit of an update. I have cut out all of my pieces, kind of. I've cut out the fronts and the backs. I think I told you before that I did have to actually make the fronts 2 separate pieces instead of cutting on fold because they were too wide, and then the backs were supposed to be 2 separate pieces, which they are. I have also seamed those together down through the front and through the center back. And then for the upper bustle piece, this is where I'm kind of struggling because I said to you before, Dora is making all sorts of noise. Dora, they want to see you. I know they do. You haven't been on camera in a while. Here's the kitten. She says hi. Okay. Now be quiet for a minute. Okay, so the upper portion, the bustle portion, that's kind of, Dora, there's pins in that. She's sitting on pins. Whatever, cats, right? Anyway, the upper portion is where I'm struggling because, as I mentioned before, I believe, I'm changing the sizes. And I also mentioned before that I was hoping to be able to do this last. Well, then I read the instructions, and the instructions require for this part to be done before you assemble the fronts to the backs, because basically this is going to get boning channels on it, like 3 boning channels put on it. And then in between each boning channel and at the top and the bottom, it's going to be gathered to fit the back. And those gathering stitches are then going to be stitched down to the back. Like they're going to be pulled up to fit and stitched down to the back, and then the boning inserted into the channels. So that's kind of where my problem is, because I was really hoping to be able to see what the bottom part looks like and then do the top. obviously that's not something that I can do without at least some degree of difficulty. Like, I suppose that I could get it on there, but trying to lay it out flat, that would just be such a pain. Now my gears are turning. Now I'm almost thinking, what if I assembled the fronts and the backs, did the boning channels around the bottom of those, looked at it on the form, and then once I figured out how big I want this piece to be, what if I then open the seam down to the point of the top hoop? Like if I open the side seams, because then I could lay flat the top portion, obviously not with the hoops inside. I would take those out, and that is one of my plans, by the way. I am going to be making the large hoops removable because that way I can spiral them all up. I put them, this is how I store hoops sometimes if they are removable. I will spiral them up and I'll put them in this tight drawstring bag that's made of canvas that I have, like a circular type bag, and it is tied to a certain degree. So it has an opening basically of like this big, and then the bag is a little bit bigger. And so I can spiral a hoop up, put it in there, and it'll kind of spring to the large size, and then I will just pull it out when I'm ready to use it. It keeps it in a circular shape, it keeps it nice and neat and out of the way, and it makes it much more travelable. The bustle portion of this can just compact and fit in my suitcase, but the larger hoops down at the bottom, they're bigger than a suitcase. So that is how you travel with hoops. If you can, you remove the hoops. So yeah, I could just remove the hoops, open up the seams down to the top hoop channel, and then it would still be able to lay flat. Okay, that is my plan. That's what I'm doing. Because basically what I had done so far is that this is one full width, which is probably about 2 to 3 inches too wide. And it is also, I think I measured this was like 33 inches long or something like that, which based on my math, not her pattern, based on my math would be probably still a few inches too long. Her pattern would call for it to be significantly shorter, and I just don't think that that's going to work for the larger hoop sizes that I am using to make it relate to that one that I already have. So this is why the math is really complicated. Speaking of the hoop steels, the other thing that I've decided is I actually did not go ahead and place that order because I realized if I am making this to basically match this, I am going to take out those bottom hoop steels from that and use 3 of them for the 4 that are required for this. I have 7 yards of hoop steel otherwise, so I will just use more hoop steel for this, like on top of those 3, and then I will use that hoop steel also for the bustle portion. Because with this hoop, it is just, it doesn't fit me well. I bought it at Scarborough Ren Fair in 2009, 8, something like that. Like literally the first time I ever went to Scarborough Fair. And it is way, way, way too tight on the hips. Like it literally gaps open on the hips because it's too tight. The top hoop has to be taken out because it's too tight on the hips. And then it's also awkwardly short. And so like I used it for Little Women last year, but I really don't ever use it for other costuming stuff. So if I need to then like move the hoops back and forth, I can do that because they're removable. But yeah, that's my plan. I'm actually just going to cannibalize those hoops from that hoop skirt. This is staying all intact. Those hoops are sewn into the bustle. But the hoop skirt portion, I'm going to steal them and put them in this. And if I ever need to use that again, I will put them back in that. So that means that I don't have to buy more hoop steel, which is great. So anyway, now that I've figured out exactly what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put the fronts together with the backs and hem that and sew on the hoop channels, the 4 hoop channels around the bottom made out of bias tape. So I've already put the pieces together and I've hemmed it and I'm doing the boning channels now, but as it turns out, a package of bias tape, or at least the packages that I seem to have, which I thought were full, but maybe they're not actually long enough to get all the way around. And I also don't have like enough of any one color to do all of these boning channels. So I've decided to do this kind of in like maybe a rainbow or something, a little bit. So basically I've taken 2 packs of white that I have, which I thought were full packs, and I have seamed them together, and I'm going to start here. So this will get all the way around the first one, and then I'll decide, do I want to do like one that's half and half, or do I want to just go to the light pink? But I think the light pink is also, again, not enough to get all the way around. I only have a partial package. So let's see how this goes. The boning channels on the bottom are now done. This one's not showing up very much, but there are the 4 of them, and I just, yeah, combined colors together until I reached the end. The other thing that I did was that I stitched down the seam allowances down here so that this is the opening actually, so it doesn't quite come together, but I stitched down the seam allowances so that the hoop steel could easily slide through and not get stuck on the seam allowances. So let's put some hoop steel in and see what this is looking like. So I almost called it on this project last night because I went to go put the hoop steel in, like the hoop steel that I had cannibalized from the one that you now no longer see on the form. And first off, it was tight going through a lot of the boning channels anyway, like the white one. But then I got to the second one up and I got through the white okay, and I got to the light pink. And apparently the light pink is narrower. It doesn't fit in the light pink at all. So that was incredibly frustrating because it was hard enough to get it through the white. Like at first I tried to get it through the white and it wasn't going, and I realized it was because the boning, I was taping the ends together with duct tape. So there was a lot of sticky residue on it. So I used Goo Gone, got it all off, tried it again. It was still really tight. And then I got to the light pink and it just did not go in. So then I went over and I have one piece of flat hoop steel that was left from my child crinoline. And so I put that in the second to bottom hoop here, and that fits fine. It's okay, but I only had the one piece, so it's only big enough for that second hoop. But I do have this that was actually sitting in a box by the door, waiting to be returned to Amazon because it's a piece of hot garbage, and it has flat hoop steel in it, and it's probably the same price as buying hoop steel, like buying a roll of it. I mean, obviously it is in pre-cut amounts, but I think it's the same price. Like this was like $20. I knew basically that it was hot garbage. I'm gonna double check the price and everything before I start to cannibalize it, just in case, but like, I mean, it might be easier to just use this than like try and order stuff, which would obviously put this video very delayed if I try to order something. So yeah, I measured this last night, and the bottom 3 hoops are large enough to go into this, and then the top ones could probably be used for the bustle is my guess, or since I haven't done those channels yet, I could, I suppose, use something besides the prepackaged bias tape, or double check the measurements on the bias tape or something, because like, again, the white, it fit. The light pink did not fit. And then I think I tried to put it in the medium pink, also did not fit. So bias tape is different widths. Yay. So anyway, I'm just getting really fed up with this because I thought that this was going to be like nice and easy. But the other thing that I'm worried about is the shape of the skirt. I mean, first off, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking that the sides that were the selvage were the side seams, not the front and back. So where I have the join, it's the center front, which is great, not what I wanted, but I can probably live with that. But even still, I mean, obviously I don't have the waist done and the joins aren't right or anything, but like I have 2 hoops in and this shape seems really, really strange, and the hoops seem so close together, and I widened this. Oh, that's something that I should talk about. Prior attire, I love your book, but the lines for the hoops in here, like it says use the diagram, they're completely arbitrary. They are not equal distance from each other, like even the start to the back, they're just like dot 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 dot. They were drawn in so quickly, so slapdash. Don't use those lines. And they're also 3 inches apart from each other on average. So I made mine 4 inches and they are still so close together that I'm just like, great, has all the work that I've been for naught? I don't know. But if I decide to cannibalize this hoop, I will go ahead and take 2 of these hoops and put them in the other 2 channels, and then like pin this to the waist of the dress form and just see what's gonna happen. So that'll be after the show today. It's Sunday, of course. and we'll see if this is a complete failure of a project or only maybe it's not a failure. I don't know. I think it's a failure. I'm pretty sure we're heading for failure here. So I've pinned it to the dress form with just the 2 hoop steels that I had in there on, just to see what it would look like. And other than my messy floor, do you see a problem there? Maybe if I get down at this level, do you see a problem? Do you see how the back is like way shorter than the front? I think it's super obvious looking in the mirror, which again, you can see the boning sticking out, but the back is going way up. So first off, that join is actually in the back, not in the front, but it is just going way up. And I just measured it, and the back is the exact same length as the front. It's supposed to be 2 inches longer, so this one happened. I don't know where those 2 inches went, but they're gone. I mean, I can try to like lift it from the front there, but if that doesn't work, then all of my hoops are just off. And lifting it from the front might just like throw everything off and remove the tilt, because I need that tilt so that it goes to the back there. So I'm about to call this a fail again. I'm going to give this one more tiny try, and that's it. So I pinned up 2 inches out of the waist up here, and it's basically done exactly as I expected. It is now just bell-shaped. So now the back isn't butting out any more than it was. Well, I mean, what it was went away. So it's not butting out any more in the back than it is in the front. It does look like it's a little more even at the bottom, but like the whole point of this crinolette is that it is flat here, and then it juts out there, which is why in my Franken crinolette, it's literally like pinned to the bustle up there, so it does wind up dipping up in the back. But like, what the, I don't know how to fix this. This is just bugging the crap out of me. So unfortunately, this project is a fail. It hasn't happened to me in a really long time that I've had a project that is just like a complete failure. But you know what? Here we are. I am not going to continue working on this project in next week's video. It's done. At least for now. It is done because I'm gonna basically have to start from scratch. So if/when I do attempt this again, it may or may not be with this pattern. It may or may not be with this fabric. At this point, this is a pile of garbage. And you know what? Sometimes it happens. And I think the important thing is that we have to be okay with that and not like beat ourselves up over something like that. I was really hoping that this could replace my Franken crinolette before costume college, but you know what? At this point, considering we are at mid-June and costume college is a little over a month away, and I know that I have another project at least that I want to do before then, and also this was a big pain in the butt, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the Franken crinolette is probably coming with me to costume college, and that's okay. It's been there before. It'll have a grand old time. So here we are. Hopefully this video wasn't disappointing to you, but yeah, as I said, these things happen. So a crinolette may be happening at some point in my future. Who knows? But if you want to find out, then you should probably make sure that you're subscribed to this channel and that you have the little bell icon turned on for notifications so that you know when I release videos like a potential crinolette video. If you liked this rather failure of a video project though, please do go ahead and click the thumbs up icon, and again, please do subscribe to my channel. If you did not see the post on my community tab recently, I am most likely going to a 1 video a week format with potential random Saturday videos thrown in there. So my videos will be on Tuesdays, my sewing vlogs like this from here on out, with those occasional bonus videos on Saturday. And if you have any topics that you would like to see me cover in those Saturday videos, please do make sure that you leave a comment down below and let me know what topics you would like to see. If you would like to help support me and my channel further, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon, Julie, and Mirage. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!